I'm here with Homemade. My name is Alex, and I'm joined here today by my friend Kenza Mouahidi, avid cook and actor. Give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Hi, Alex. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So good to have you. Really excited to cook with you today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Solaray and some of what we're going to talk about today?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been experimenting on some symptoms from perimenopause stage. One of them is having night sweats. And every night I would wake up at 2:30 a.m. I'm like, oh, I cannot go to sleep. This is insane. And fatigue and brain fog. So this has helped me a lot because it has maca, so it helps for my mood swings, and saffron, so I can sleep much better.
Thanks for sharing. And this is a topic that I feel like is relevant to everybody because we all have women in our life. We all have people that we can support by knowing more about how we can support them with healthy food. And there's also nutritional components that are relevant to all of us. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit today. And we're going to be cooking today some crispy saffron rice with a beautiful salad and a number of other components, including some fresh veggies, along with some chickpeas and a little yogurt vinaigrette. And without further ado, I'm going to get you started. And let's see, Meg, if you wouldn't mind just pulling up the menu again, thank you very much. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the components here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the rice going. And so we have here, yeah, you can show that we have some veggie stock, which has some of the saffron steeping. The reason we're doing that is to let some of the flavors kind of enhance and blend into that stock. So we're going to get that rice going and starting to cook. And so we're going to get this going at a boil. We're going to bring it to a boil, and then we're going to add the rice. We can already smell the saffron. And you seem like someone who has a lot of experience cooking with saffron.
Yeah, I have a wonderful story about saffron. They call it the red gold because it's actually harvested only from October to December, and it's picked in Morocco by women because it's so delicate. So I mean, saffron is like a huge part of my culture. I also drink tea and I add saffron to it. And growing up, I saw my grandma making rice with saffron. And I think you also taught how to cook from your grandmother as well?
Also, I've talked about my grandma more than once here before because she really influenced so much of my cooking, and we really cook with a global palate, and we love cooking with saffron. It was one of our favorite delicacies, and we feel very lucky that here in the Northwest, we have some folks who grow it in our state, which is very special.
Wow.
And some families came from in Iran and are now sharing with the rest of us. So very lucky to have those global ingredients locally here. And so we got this rice going. It's just starting to get to a boil. We'll go ahead and drop that in.
Yes.
And this is pre-rinsed. We always want to pre-rinse our rice to remove some of the starches for dishes like this where we don't really want the rice to turn into a totally binded situation. We want it to stay in separate grains. There's other things where you may not have to remove those starches, but for this it's important. And so we're going to get this going, and we can put the lid on, and we'll just give this a little bit of a shake just to kind of even it out and make sure it's totally submerged underneath the stock. And you could use a number of different stock alternatives. If you want to go the vegetarian route, you could absolutely use the vegetable stock. You could use some vegetable scraps. I'm someone who loves to just repurpose vegetable scraps in my house, and that's something that you can do as you're preparing another meal, is get a pot of stock going. Instead of putting them in a bag and make that stock later, go ahead and make it while you're cooking for the next dish.
Nothing should go to waste. Like if you make a soup, just keep like the rest of the vegetables that you have and make a vegetable stock.
Yeah, definitely. And I was curious, we were talking about saffron, and we're seeing this rice, which looks like it's just getting to a boil, and so we're going to turn it down a little bit and bring it down more to a simmer. So we've got it at full heat, and we're going to bring it down now to most of the way down. So we're going to bring it down to about 2 to 3 out of 10. We'll say 2 for right now. And if you wouldn't mind, Meg, setting a timer for 15 minutes, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
got you.
And I was curious about saffron. What components, what nutritional benefits that has, and especially as it relates to menopause, the conversation we're having today.
Well, it fights inflammation, and it also helps you sleep. And it's also good for all the breast tenderness that you can experiment during perimenopause. I mean, I think we should normalize this kind of conversations because it's not something we feel comfortable talking with, like our friends, our colleagues, probably because people say, no, you're too young to be in perimenopause because everyone is scared of aging. So I think these kind of conversations should be part of our society right now. There is no shame to be in perimenopause or in menopause or in post-menopause. So
I love that. We all have bodies, we're all gonna age, so let's talk about it. And so we're gonna get this rice continuing to simmer, and we'll let that simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then as that's going, we can start to get the chickpeas going. And
I just wanted to say something about like off of what you were saying, Kenza. Like also if like if you're in a culture where you don't talk about like aging or like symptoms or like, oh, I can't sleep, like it stops there from being a solution to that. Like
Yes.
like a supplement like this. Like yeah, I don't know. It stops people from getting help if they don't talk about what they're going through. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
I agree. Normalize talking about what you're going
Yes.
through.
And I'm glad this this supplement exists because you don't know what's wrong with you. And I've been experimenting, like having the supplement since weeks, and I feel much better at night. Because if you don't sleep, how you gonna work, and how you gonna be nice to people? Yeah, sometimes you're aggressive, and you don't know why. Like, oh, sorry.
that is a very good point. So you noticed that your sleep has been a little bit different. What else have you noticed from taking this supplement?
I used to wake up and the sheets would be very wet from the night sweats.
That's me.
And then you feel cold afterwards.
Yeah.
So this was like all messed up, and yeah.
Beautiful. That's a big problem to solve. If I could solve that through nutrition and diet, absolutely. And so we have these chickpeas here. This is a drained can of chickpeas. Again, the more cost-effective way would be if you started them from dry. So if you buy them in bulk and you're willing to cook them in a pressure cooker, you're gonna save some money, but you can also then get some additional seasoning as you cook them the first time. You could cook them in a stock, you could cook them with some herbs, and you're not gonna get that from the can. But we get that, hey, for convenience sake, a lot of people cook with canned chickpeas.
Yes. Well, I think there's nothing wrong with it as long as you drain them, you rinse them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then now we're gonna give it some additional flavor here, and we have this spice blend here, which is a little bit of some ground cumin, some cayenne, some
Pepper,
paprika, some pepper, salt, and
Coriander.
coriander.
Yes.
And so we're gonna mix this in very well with the chickpeas. I'm gonna go ahead and get in there with my hands. You really can't mix it well without getting a little dirty, right? I feel like good cooking, you gotta get dirty.
Absolutely. You need to touch the food.
Yeah. Do you have many memories as a kid getting in the kitchen? You talked about being inspired by your grandma.
I used to do my homework in the kitchen.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up in a household. My grandma used to live with us, and my mom and grandma would cook together. And I have memories from my grandma where she used to have her friends come in to visit her, and they would ask for advice. Oh, I got a cold. I have like indigestion. Like, how can you help me? And she'd say, oh, you can drink like thyme tea, whatever. So I grew up like using herbs and spices a lot and natural medicine.
That's beautiful. Do you feel like it's really changed the way that you approach medicine as a whole, your grandma and food?
Yes, it serves me a lot, and I use like I'm inspired by the Mediterranean diet, so I use lots of legumes like chickpeas and grains like rice, and lots of vegetables for the fibers. So yeah.
That's beautiful. We talked a little bit about the Mediterranean diet last time with our friends from Swedish, so I'm excited to keep learning about all these flavors and all the good things they're doing for us.
That's beautiful.
And so here we have, thank you so much. We can put that in the sink. And here we have the chickpeas. I'm making sure to just kind of spread them out. I'm laying down some parchment. The parchment is an important piece for the most part of cooking for just ease of not cleaning up after yourself. They're gonna stick less, and we're also not gonna have to wash as much. So make sure you do that. That's a great little tip to make cleaning easier for yourself, make cooking easier for yourself. And so we've got the oven preheated to 400. We're gonna go ahead and put these in the middle rack so they get some heat from the top and the bottom. And then, Meg, would you mind setting a timer? We'll check those after 6 minutes. They may need just a little bit more. We might give them a little toss and let them continue cooking there. And so, yeah, now we're getting ready to start prepping our salad ingredients and the rest of all these lovely things that are gonna go as a topping. And so this is basically a standard cucumber, and we're gonna cut that into slices. And then here we have some beautiful radishes.
And I'm gonna use mandolin, so just be cautious with it.
Definitely be cautious with a mandolin. If you have a mandolin and you're an amateur chef, one thing that I did so that I wouldn't slice my finger off, which I'm not gonna lie, I have come close in the early days. Thankfully, I did not slice a finger with a mandolin. The way that I avoided that was to triple glove, or if you have kind of a thicker utility glove, you can do that. There are special cutting gloves. But if you don't have one of those, putting on a thicker, even like a dish type glove, or several latex gloves is a way to make sure that you really, really don't cut yourself while doing that.
And if you don't want to use it, you can just chop them with a knife. So.
Exactly, yeah. And you could even kind of experiment with both. See how you can kind of slowly get your knife skills to the point where you can chop almost as thin as you might be able to with a mandolin. It's tricky because you can get it paper thin with a mandolin, but it's a good exercise to practice knife skills.
Also, you don't have to go all the way to the nub. You can just throw it in your veggie stock bag before you get too close.
Yeah.
That is good advice, yeah. All right, and so I've got this cucumber here. I'm cutting off the ends to use as much of this as possible, and then we're gonna cut this into very thin slices.
Something. Okay.
Is there much cucumber in Moroccan
Kenza,
cuisine?
I think I put the guard all the way up.
Yeah.
That's all
It's
right.
on the bottom. There's a little
Figure
screw.
it out. And I'm cutting this, if you see I turn this just a little bit, I'm cutting this just slightly at a bias. So rather than cutting this at a 90-degree angle to my knife, I'm turning it. So I'm turning it just about like 45 degrees. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna give you more surface area. And what that means, basically, it's a fancy way of saying you're gonna get slightly larger slices, and so you can get more cucumber per bite. Yes, and there we go. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, beautiful. And then, there we go. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, so on this type, you can
Oh yeah,
pick.
we can do a little bit less. And then we can also just do it by hand if we prefer. Whatever's most comfortable. So I'm cutting this at a bias, fairly thin. And then, yeah, no need to try to use as many of the nubs. Yeah, we can just save that, and then we'll continue and make sure those don't go to waste. We could put those even in a stock or another salad. Continue slicing thin here. Is there much cucumber in Moroccan cuisine?
We use it for a salad with like tomatoes, fresh parsley, lemon vinaigrette, and lettuce.
Is there a name for that dish?
Well, we call it Mediterranean salad because you have it also in the Middle East. So,
Okay, with all kinds of things. Lovely. And so we're getting these sliced fairly thin. And we're not removing the seeds here. There's not really seeds in this one, so you don't have to, but it really depends on the kind of cucumber and also your preference to some extent.
And it's also good to keep the skin because this is where you get all the fibers from.
Would you say that's kind of a universal thing in terms of keeping the skin will give you additional fiber with almost anything?
Yes. I do it with apples as well.
Apples. Beautiful. All right, we've almost got these fully sliced. And we'll get these prepped with the rest of our salad ingredients. So we're going to mix these in with the lettuce. And we're gonna go ahead and kind of slowly start to jump into this dressing. You know, and I was thinking today, it's kind of funny being here because I do not know a lot about menopause. And I was thinking, like, what is my role here? What is it that I want to get out of this personally? And I'm somebody who really wanted to show up for the women in my life, such as my mother, such as my aunts. And when I cook for them, it's really nice to be able to support them nutritionally on a deeper level. But I'm not just here as a stand-in. I'm not just here to bring the men in menopause. I'm really here to actually learn, and I think there's something that anybody can gain from learning some of this nutrition. So I'm excited to keep diving in. These are beautifully sliced. Thank you. Great job. And we'll go ahead and mix these in with the cucumbers here. And I think we're just kind of probably starting to approach the time to flip the chickpeas. So I'm gonna go ahead and check on those in the oven. Again, those were roasting at 400, and they will probably need to be turned at this point. So they're gonna need another 5 minutes or so. Thank you so much. And you can see that they're starting to get a little bit of color, and they're changing a little bit. But they're especially after we flip them, you can see that there's a little bit of color, but they're gonna need more time. We want them to have a little bit more of that crunchy texture. So we'll let these cook for about another 5 minutes here. And then, so the rice that we have cooking, this is part of the joys of live television, is that we get to cheat a little bit and show you some of the processes as we move ahead, just for the sake of time. So the rice is still cooking here, and we're going to start to show you what it would look like once the rice is totally done cooking, which will probably take around 15 minutes, at which point you're gonna wanna take it off the heat, let it rest for at least a few minutes really before you start moving it around. If you start to kind of toss the rice with the rice paddle, you may start to get kind of that sticking together, breaking.
You want the rice to be tender, and you want the liquid to be completely absorbed. So
Definitely,
yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing is that you can use what kind of rice you have on hand. We're using jasmine, long grain, but you can be creative and experiment with what you have. You don't have to use jasmine. It's better to use the long grain rice for this purpose, but you can be creative. And so here we have the cucumbers and the radishes ready to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and dump in this lettuce there too, since we're gonna go ahead and prep all those ingredients together. And at this point, we can start to slowly make the vinaigrette.
yes.
And so what I can do is I can give you a lemon, which I'm cutting here, and the juicer. And we can juice the lemon into here. And here we go. Go ahead. There we go. What would you say lemon juice has in terms of nutritional properties? And
Vitamin C for sure.
Vitamin C.
Yeah. So it's antifungus, antibacterial, antioxidant also.
Is that something that's relevant to the menopause conversation as well in terms of antioxidants?
Well, I think vitamin C is good for everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so, yeah, we can go
So-
ahead and add that.
The harissa base.
The harissa. Beautiful. And then we have the red wine vinegar. Beautiful. About, I believe it's 2 teaspoons, if I'm not mistaken.
And then
Honey.
some honey.
And then we can mix in some of the olive oil. And we'll pour in a little bit at a time to kind of reach that right ratio.
Let me remove this.
Move the seed, beautiful. And this is less than a quarter cup of olive oil. We're gonna kind of mix this in here. And then we have
salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper, beautiful.
Taste.
Beautiful.
Our rice timer just went off.
Oh, thank you so
But I know
much.
we kind of moved on.
All right, beautiful.
Okay.
Can we talk about harissa a little bit?
Yes, yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts because I think you have more experience with harissa than I do.
Well, harissa is like made through all the North Africa, like Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, etc. It's like using red hot chili peppers and with lots of spices, caraway seeds, cumin, coriander, garlic powder, saffron, turmeric, ginger, etc. And then you wanted to make it as a paste with olive oil. And it's wonderful to have it, to make your own, to have it in the fridge. And you can, it's gonna get that special taste to your dishes.
I just love how bright it is. For those of us who like spice, it's very nice, but because it has all the seasoning as well, you're gonna get a lot more than if you're just using, say, like a straight pepper paste. There's really so much going in terms of the aromatics.
Lots of flavors, yeah.
So it really does a lot in terms of a small amount. I feel like it could do great things.
Even
to
if you make just a simple omelet and you get like a harissa on the side.
Mm-hmm. Or for those of us who like making aiolis, a harissa aioli is great on a
That's a good
sandwich
one,
or for dipping
yes.
vegetables in. And I learned today that harissa is synonymous to a lot of North Africa, but the common thread is that it's the macerated red pepper with these spices. And so harissa actually means mashed. And it's those macerated red peppers, slightly spicy, that's going to be the common thread. And then you might see some probably differences with the seasoning and the spices a little bit from country to country.
From different cultures, yes.
And so we've got this here, and we're just going to continue mixing this up. All right. And then here we have so we have some of the garlic as well, which we can mince up there. That can go
I'll let
into
you do
this.
it.
Thank you so much. Garlic is something that I learned last time from my friends at Swedish about. You can practically never eat too much garlic. Would you say that's right?
Oh, yes. What's the idiom? There's not such thing as too much garlic.
Yeah, I believe that.
I like that one.
Only once or twice have I been burned by too much garlic, but I'm still not mad.
Oh, yeah. All right. And so now we have this garlic here. We're going to mince this up. And so the way to mince it, I like chopping it about 90% of the way down to the end, as thinly as possible. Then turning it sideways, so perpendicular. And then we're gonna match them up. And then we're gonna cut down vertically. Be mindful of your fingers. Make sure to always do the salt pinch trick so that your fingers are hidden from the knife. So that you're cutting basically against the flat part of right above your knuckle. You're using that kind of as a guide. This is now starting to be minced. And since we're gonna be doing a fine mince, one of the tricks that I had mentioned before, would you mind passing me the salt?
Yes.
Is how to finely mince garlic. And one of the tricks that can help a little bit is by throwing a little salt down. And we're gonna kind of continue to mince here.
Oh, nice.
And then we'll basically use the salt to kind of
This is the
press
first time
it.
I'm seeing this technique.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I get to teach another chef a trick.
Yes.
And so we're going to kind of then press the knife against the salt there to continue to macerate it. And so when
So it's more like a paste. And
yeah, it's almost like a little bit of a paste. And then we'll kind of continue chop, 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 chop. And what I'm doing is I'm turning it into smaller pieces as I'm crushing it. I'm making it easier to cut. But I'm also basically releasing some of the flavors as I'm doing that. And we're just about there. And this will get mixed in. How did you first get into cooking? You mentioned with your family, but how did you first get into cooking instruction?
Honestly, during COVID, I cooked more.
That was a lot of us,
I guess
right?
like everyone.
What was your go-to COVID cooking project? Were there certain things that you gravitated towards, like your comfort foods during COVID?
Yeah, I love a good pasta.
Ooh, fresh made and everything.
Yeah, pasta with kale or pasta with zucchini or,
Love that.
yeah.
All right.
But I love also like quinoa bowls with avocados and
Oh, we've got to do
salmon.
some cooking together, in
Yep.
fact, then. With Peruvian cuisine, that's one of the
Wow,
go-tos.
Beautiful.
And so, yeah, this is just kind of macerated. We've got that incorporated in
Mm-hmm.
there. And then here we have a little bit of this yogurt base here. I've
Yes.
got a quarter cup of
Like a
yogurt.
Greek yogurt.
Greek yogurt, correct. We want something that's kind of thin. If you use a regular yogurt, it's going to be a little bit more of like a runny mess. We want a thicker yogurt for this, so Greek works great for that. And we're going to give it a little bit of a seasoning, and so we're going to do some salt. I'll take some pepper as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And then we'll give it a little bit of citrus as well. Citrus brings everything to life, wouldn't you say?
And Greek yogurt helps a lot with the gut because it's probiotic.
Mm.
And it also has calcium, so it's good for the bones. And the problem with perimenopause is I started to have also like joint and muscle pain. So yeah.
Yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
get the. I
Greek
like this
yogurt.
recipe too because it's
I
like
love it.
getting your
It's-
protein from different
yeah.
sources, like plant sources and dairy.
I love this recipe because it's easy to make and very nurturing.
It's
and
so accessible,
healthy.
yeah. This is one I'll definitely be making at home.
Delicious.
And so we're just getting a little bit of citrus in here, about just maybe not even half a teaspoon, just enough to kind of give it some flavor there, and we're gonna mix it in there. That's optional. You don't necessarily have to do that. And this yogurt is kind of be the base for our salad. And this rice here I know is done at this point. I'm just gonna give it a
Yes,
check
it
to be
is.
sure, but let's just give it one try here, and now I've got a spoon.
While you're trying that, and while we're kind of talking about like how different ingredients help with different things in your body, like I made a little display to kind of reference some of the ingredients in the perimenopause supplement. One of them being chromium, and so this like display of vegetables. There we go. Yeah. So like there's chromium in all different types of produce that we eat on day to day, but like the amount, for example, like the amount of, you'd have to drink like, let me look. Sorry, I lost my note. You'd have to drink 13 cups of tomato juice to get as much chromium that's in this supplement, and that's just there to help you with like.
That's a lot.
I know you can't do that every day. It's just simply not possible. So yeah, and that's just what helps with cravings and keeping your
Yeah,
blood sugar
it's
level.
good for the blood sugar.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, these supplements are just full of vitamins that like we get through everyday things. It's nothing weird, but it's just like an amount that can help you with your sleep or with your cravings or joint pain or whatever is going on.
And
So anyway, I just wanted to give my ode to ingredients.
Well,
I'm definitely someone that can get a little bit freaked out by the number of vegetables that every day you're supposed to be eating. And I think about the volume and how hard that can be and how important supplements can be just to kind of fill in the gaps. It's not really like a replacement to healthy eating, but it's challenging to track all of the nutrients and vitamins from everything you're eating. So these supplements definitely do a big thing for that.
yeah.
And so here we've got this yogurt here that's ready to go for the base, and the rice we're gonna crisp up, and that's something that really you could do while the chickpeas are going, which are perfectly done right now. And the rice you want to crisp up for probably less time that the rice you want to crisp up for probably less time than you do the chickpeas, right? So you'll probably start to crisp up the rice for about 5 less than 10 minutes. The chickpeas are, this is about the color that we want to give. You're seeing that they're starting to brown. If you grab one, do you want to give one a try and see if it's crispy? Might be a little hot. Careful. It's got some crisp.
Yeah.
And we'll do some additional seasoning for salt. So I'll
Very good.
have these here. All right. You can always add a little bit more salt, but that's definitely something I feel like has a lot to do with, well, one, your nutrition. It's easy to oversalt your food and make it not so healthy for you, but it's nice to just little by little. Same thing with heat. We add a little bit of cayenne. We can always make this more spicy. I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you cooked for guests and made it absolutely
You make
too spicy.
it too hot, too spicy, and
Are
then
you
the
s-
guests are like,
Are you a spicy fan?
I am.
Yeah.
Well, that's my culture. So.
Me too, yeah. But I've definitely overspiced, and you can always kind of add a little bit more. It's hard to go the opposite direction. So here we have these chickpeas, which are ready to be mixed in with the rice. We're gonna take the rice out in just a second. We really wanna crisp that up until it's starting to brown around the edges on the sheet pan. And so once you have your rice, which is basically fully cooked at this point, I wanted to give it just a couple minutes to cool, and then I'm gonna spread it. All right.
Kenza, what have you been cooking lately? What's on the menu at your house?
I've done lamb tagine with prunes, and the main spice you use for that is saffron.
Oh,
That
really?
sounds amazing.
I love like that sweet and savory.
It's exactly
and,
that. Yeah. It's hitting the spot.
Yum.
And the prunes are cooked with cinnamon and honey and ginger. So you have like the sweetness from the prunes, but you also have the savory from the lamb or
Yeah, and
the
like
garlic.
warm,
Yeah,
cozy,
yeah. It's a
very like
it's
fall,
comfort food.
winter.
Yeah.
Yum.
All right, and so we've got this rice here, and the best thing would be to put some parchment down here. We're not gonna put this into the oven. We've already got some in the oven, so I'm gonna put this straight down here. But you really wanna put this down on some parchment. Lay that down beforehand. And you see this rice has a really nice, beautiful yellow color. That was all thanks to the saffron.
Yeah.
And a little bit probably because of the stock, but for the most part, it's because of the
It's
saffron.
The saffron, yes.
How
And
would
so
you
we're g-
describe the smell of saffron?
Ooh, wow. Almost kind of earthy a little bit. It's got a very
It's like umami.
umami, yeah. It's got a very specific, almost bite to it that's so distinctive, and I feel like that's one of the reasons it's so valuable. It's a flavor that's almost incomparable to other things.
I don't know if you already said this, but does it come from a flower? Where do saffron threads come from?
Yeah, it's a flower. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought.
It's purple, but then the saffron is red, and you pick it like this. Yeah.
And you have to very delicately
Yeah.
pluck it out.
That image of the farmers harvesting it is very, very beautiful.
It's beautiful.
So we got this kind of spread here, and the important thing to spread it is to let it fully cool and also get some air, and that's what's gonna allow it to crisp up. So again, you're gonna put this on parchment paper. We've already got ours on parchment paper in the oven, but that's gonna help it sort of crisp up around the edges. And if you've had a paella in Spanish cuisine, that's what they call
Oh,
almost
I
like
love
a
paella.
socorrot. Oh, so
my
good,
God.
right? In Colombian cuisine, it's also very sought after, this crispy rice. They call it pegao. So it's after many dishes. What's stuck to the pan is called pegado, means literally the rice that's stuck
Yeah,
to
and
the
that's
pan.
the best.
And kids fight in it over, families fight it for in families. It's kind of funny. Is that a thing that happens in Morocco? Do people love that?
I experience it more for Korean cuisine, bibimbap, like at the end, where you scratch that
I love bibimbap.
crispy rice.
So good. Thank you. All right, we got this rice here.
Looks like it's crispy.
It's looking brown to me. And so this is what the rice should look like once it's starting to crisp up. See, all around the edges, for the most part, it's starting to brown. We even see a little bit on the top, some of that beautiful color too. I almost feel like the way the rice is browning enhances the color of the saffron. It looks like there's even more red in
That's
there
a
and
good
orange.
pairing.
Yeah. Oh, and just remind it, we put a little bit of oil in it too before it goes in the oven,
We did. Thank you for that. Yes, we had already put some oil on there, but that's an important step. Thank you, Meg. And so it's not a whole lot, but you do want to make sure that it's evenly coated. So if you're not doing a spray, if you're pouring it on, make sure that once you give it a good drizzle, you're also kind of mixing it around with a spatula or something to make sure that it's even. And that's going to help crisp it up as well. And so we've got that there. We're going to let it continue to cool just for a second here, and while we get ready some of the other ingredients. And if you wouldn't mind, you could get this going with the yogurt base. Thank you so much. And then at this point, we'll start to mix the dry components, which are going to be the chickpeas and also the rice once it's cooled in a second here. It's so much fun having people to cook with. I hope we get to cook again soon.
I love it. Sharing food,
The best.
good conversation.
Good food, good stories.
And then you get to eat it at the end.
That's what life is all about, right? Beautiful. What do you think of
Okay.
Seattle so far? This is your first time in Seattle, correct?
This is my first time. I love it. I was so excited. I mean, you guys are surrounded by nature. Like you.
It's not a
so
bad life.
different from New York.
Very different. But you know, sometimes the grass is always greener on the other side. I always think about the food that New York has and miss that. So
Yeah, well, the food scene in New York is pretty good.
and so we got the parchment, which almost prevented all the rice from sticking. And I'm going to mix that with the chickpeas. And so these are our dry ingredients. So these are going to go on top. Why am I mixing all these ingredients separately? Is because they're going to go kind of in different layers. And so for this, we have the crispy rice and the chickpeas that are going to go on top. But the first layer is going to be so we have the greens here. That'll go on,
Shall we put the
afterwards.
dressing?
Yes, exactly. So we'll do a little bit of dressing on each. And then I can give you a
Nice,
spoon to mix
yes.
that. We can kind of mix both of them. All right.
All right.
Here you are. Thank you so much.
Oh, I can feel that the rice is very crispy.
This is when things
Yes.
get exciting and the ASMR sounds start kicking in and I start getting hungry.
I love this color. It's like a fall color, autumn leaves.
Totally fall colors, yeah. And then with the green, we get like a little bit of that bright freshness and a really unique combination of textures. So you get some crunch and bite from the vegetables, but you're really gonna get even more of that texture from the rice and the chickpeas as well. And so we did season the dressing, but we didn't season it heavily. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of salt to finish seasoning here. And we can probably do that for the chickpeas as well. Just a little pinch. Continue mixing. A little pinch, continue mixing. And I think we're just about there. All right. So we're laying down this bed of the fresh veggies.
Maybe we can keep some of them for the after.
Yeah, that's a
on
great
top
idea.
Of the rice.
It's always fun to layer things.
Yeah.
So we'll start here. And then we'll layer some of the rice, get some of that directly on the yogurt so that can kind of soak it up. That's an important stage. And then the last stage, if you wouldn't mind helping, just mince up some of these fresh herbs. Cut up some of the herbs here, and they can be pretty roughly cut. And I'll continue assembling here. The fresh herbs are also really what's going to give us a lot of that brightness and just also add to the complexity of the layers of flavors and give you some of the authenticity with the flavor profiles of Mediterranean cuisine. Mint and cilantro are very, very common ingredients in Mediterranean cuisine. And then, yeah, go ahead and garnish that on top. That's great.
Beautiful.
That looks great. You can just get a little bit of mint. Mint is one of those things I decided to grow in my garden, and then I regretted it immediately. It took over
Why?
the whole garden.
Oh,
Have you ever grown any of your own
No.
mint? I don't know. I would say do it with caution if you do.
okay. But I love to drink mint tea.
So good. Well, I can share some mint.
It's very good for digestion. It's amazing. When you have a heavy meal, and you just like make mint herbal tea,
Absolutely.
you feel much better. It's good for the bloating, too.
This looks
Yeah, you just
beautiful.
want to grow it in its own pot.
That is-
Otherwise, it'll take everything over.
Very good tip. All right.
Et voila.
Beautiful. What do you think? Is it time to eat?
It is.
It looks like it. All right. Well, I had a lot of fun today. I learned quite a bit, so thanks again for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully it turned
I
out.
learned so much from you.
Oh, yeah, we both learned a little bit from each other. And then make sure you get some of that yogurt at the bottom as you kind of scoop in things. So
Yeah.
scoop from the bottom. That's kind of an important little tip here. There's that.
Thank you.
Of course. And for me. Wow, this is looking fun. All right.
Ready?
Yeah,
I'll just use a spoon.
sure. Mm-hmm. You can probably hear the crisp of the rice. I'm very happy with this one.
Oh, delicious.
I feel like I'm nourishing myself with everything in here. Well, thanks so much for coming. I had a blast.
Thank you. Very grateful. I hope you guys like it.
And everybody, the next class will be on the 11th in this series. It's going to be an easy Mediterranean cod dish. Have a great day. Thanks so much, everyone.